So today I'm going to be talking about one of the places that I believe is the most worthy to experience, which is Paris, France. So around 90 million people visit France each year, but a third of that, which is 30 million people, specifically visit France for Paris. Paris, France is a life-changing experience. My experience in traveling is quite expansive, and I visited Paris, France last summer, and I absolutely believe that it is the best place to go to. Paris is enriched in history, culture, as well as breathtaking sights, and it is worth the wait as well as worth the trip to go. So, how does a nation who is not always the most friendliest of people, as well as they're not guaranteed to speak English, how does it gain so many visitors? Paris has this expansive category of architectural and monumental richness, and is anchored in a form of contemporarity. So the Eiffel Tower is the most famous symbol of Paris. According to history.com, it is considered to be an architectural wonder, as well as it is the most visited attraction in all of the world. The view that it provides is absolutely breathtaking, and it is an opportunity that you don't want to miss. The next landscape or monument that I want to talk about is Pei's Pyramid. It is considered to be a beauty of architecture, as well as it is surrounded by the Louvre Museum. The Louvre Museum is considered to be according to SkyverWalks.com, is considered to be the most famous as well as the biggest museum. It holds Leonardo da Vinci's Mona Lisa, which is a very important history of art, and it's one not to miss despite how small it is. It's very interesting to see in person. Lastly is the Château de Versailles. According to HistoryCrunch.com, this historic building is important because of the history it holds. It explains the excess of failures of the king and queen during the French Revolution, as well as the type of structure and architecture that the monument holds is crazy to see that they could build such a place. The design is interesting and unique, and I've never seen anything like it. So each monument in Paris has a snippet of history, whether that be solely to Paris or to the world's history, and I think it's very important that you see how it encompasses all this history and this great facts that one can really only imagine, and by seeing it in real life gives it that great effect. Second, I believe Paris's culture is very influencing. According to TravelerCity.io, in May 2020, it describes the influence has on its art. It says that art and romanticism is deeply rooted in the Parisian culture, which is also why Paris is considered the city of love. Telegraph.co.uk, Joylyn Anawal described the impact that Paris fashion has on the couture of the fashion world. It brings up the biggest names in fashion history, as well as the cafe culture that Paris has. You cannot miss a street that has like 10 cafes on it. And it describes how the cafes were meeting places in the Roaring 20s, how they would pick up intellectual conversations. According to worldinparis.com, it explains how Hemingway could be seated there and bring up all these great facts and arts that he created. So Paris has this diverse culture, which is an inspiration to writers, artists, and filmmakers from all around the world. And lastly, I believe that Paris is a city that absorbs you. Anthony Pogren describes Paris as absorbing. In worldinparis.com, it talks about how venturing off the beaten path of Paris, you can see this exotic and interesting and stuck in time away from the urban rush villages that are really amazing and kind of show how diverse Paris really is, apart from the landmarks and monuments that typically all the visitors will visit. Telegraph.co.uk in 2015 said, Paris has this permanent elegance. In its evolving world, it still manages to intact the history and love that the city can hold. Not to mention the absolutely beautiful skyline that Paris exhibits during night, day, at any time. It has this absolutely breathtaking city line that if you go to a tall building, you can absolutely see every city, and it's amazing. So Paris is rich in its history, its culture, and its desires, and it provides visitors the best sights in history. So I really do hope that Paris is on your bucket list, as well as you see how much this city can offer, not only to your perspective, but also the history that you have learned, as well as kind of see this difference that Americans don't really have, but really how different the culture that Paris can bring to you. As Audrey Hepburn once said in Sabrina, Paris is always a good choice. Thank you so much for listening to my speech. I am now open for questions. Yeah, so they asked what my favorite part about Paris is, and I truly believe it was the culture. It has this unique culture that not a lot of places can provide for you, such as the cafe culture. You see people wearing these different clothing items, and it's insane to see how different it is and how encouraging it can be to you to kind of see this different culture and this different kind of perspective of how people kind of do their everyday daily things. So thank you so much for listening to my speech, and I hope you learned something.